Ladies and gentlemen, you wake up every day and immediately, before your feet even hit the ground, your mind starts talking. It starts reminding you of everything you're not, everything you haven't achieved yet. It lists your failures like a cold-hearted judge. The job you didn't get, the money you haven't made, the body you still hate when you look in the mirror. That's where the problem begins, not in the world around you, but in the battlefield within your own mind. Most people don't lose in life because they're not smart enough, strong enough, or talented enough. They lose because they've already surrendered to a voice inside their head that was never built to lead them, only to destroy them. This voice doesn't shout. It whispers. It says things like maybe later, you're not ready yet, what's the point, and you've already failed before, why try again? And here's the dangerous part, you believe it. You accept those thoughts as truth when they're nothing more than echoes of fear and failure. This voice isn't yours. It was installed over time by people who gave up on themselves and projected their limitations onto you. Parents, teachers, so-called friends, society, they conditioned you. They trained you to play small, to fit in, to stay safe, to stay broke in your mindset and your reality. And over time, that voice inside became louder than your own desire to win. You can't win a war when you've already made peace with the enemy. Every single day, people wake up and let that enemy camp in their mind rent-free. They feed it with their thoughts, with their words, with their choices. They don't just hear the voice, they obey it. They let it dictate how they feel, how they act, what they avoid, and how far they never go. And then they wonder why their life never changes. They look at other people with envy, jealousy, or confusion, asking, why them? But the truth is harsh. It's not them, it's you. You lose every single time you choose to let that inner voice run the show. Your mind was meant to serve you, but instead you've become a servant to it. That's backwards, that's broken. The battlefield of your life is fought and won in your mind. If you wake up and your first thoughts are of worry, stress, failure, or fear, guess what kind of energy you bring into your day? That's right, low energy, weak action, doubtful movement. You don't attack the day. You tiptoe through it, hoping nothing bad happens. But nothing good happens either, because you're not making moves, you're avoiding them. You're stuck in mental survival mode while life passes you by. Opportunities show up and you hesitate. Ideas come to you and you question them. Challenges arise and you retreat. Why? Because the battle was already lost the moment you believed the lie that you weren't enough. Now here's what most people never understand. Your thoughts are not facts. Just because your mind tells you something doesn't mean it's true. Your mind is like a machine. It repeats what it's been programmed with. If you've spent years telling yourself you're not worthy, you're not capable, or you'll never make it, that becomes your operating system. It becomes automatic. You don't even question it anymore. You think, I'm just being realistic. But you're not being realistic. You're being defeated. You're acting like the war is over when you haven't even put up a fight. You must take control. You must interrupt the mental pattern that keeps producing the same miserable results. You must begin to treat your mind like a high-security environment. Every thought is either a soldier fighting for you or against you. And you decide which ones get to stay. If a thought doesn't serve your goals, your growth, your vision, it has no right to be in your mind. You eliminate it, you replace it. You repeat the new one over and over until it becomes your new truth. But this isn't easy. Don't expect it to be. If you've spent years losing the battle, you're not going to win overnight. This requires a daily war, a commitment to think differently, act differently, speak differently. It means saying no to the voice of weakness even when it feels like the truth. It means replacing I can't with I will, I'm scared with I'm ready, what if I fail with what if I win. It means understanding that your current mental state is not your final destination. You have to build a mindset strong enough to carry the weight of the life you want to live. The world doesn't owe you peace. It doesn't care about your struggles or yourself. doubt. It only responds to action, but action doesn't start in your body, it starts in your mind. That's why people keep losing. They keep trying to change their life with weak thoughts, lazy emotions, and half-hearted effort. They don't win because they don't think like winners. They don't talk like winners. They don't train their minds to see obstacles as fuel and failure as feedback. They live on repeat, trapped in a mental loop of low standards, low effort, and low belief. And until they realize the war is inside, they'll keep losing everything on the outside. Your brain is a battlefield. Every thought is a bullet. Every belief is a weapon. The only question is, who are you arming? The part of you that wants to rise, or the part of you that's already given up? Every emotion you feel is a signal, an instruction, and whether you realize it or not, it is shaping your reality every second of every day. Most people walk around like emotional time bombs, not understanding that the very feelings they allow to dominate their inner world are building the exact life they say they don't want. You feel tired, so you act tired. You feel worthless, so you behave in ways that confirm it. You feel frustrated, so you speak and decide with irritation. Then you wonder why nothing changes, but here's the truth. It's not your situation that's holding you back. It's the emotional state you keep choosing to live in. Emotions are not background noise. They are the energy that drives action or inaction. They are the language of your subconscious mind. Every time you feel an emotion, it sends instructions to your brain, which triggers chemical reactions in your body, which then influence your behavior. And your behavior is what creates your outcomes. That's why two people can be in the same situation, broke, rejected, heartbroken, and respond completely differently. One becomes a victim, the other becomes a warrior. The difference, emotional control. One allowed emotions to drown them. The other used emotions as fuel to rise. What you feel consistently becomes your vibration, and your vibration attracts circumstances to match it. People think this is mysticism. It's not. It's frequency, it's biology, it's psychology. If you're constantly angry, constantly depressed, constantly anxious, you start seeing the world through that filter. You begin to only notice things that support those emotions. That's how the mind works. It wants to be right. So it filters in everything that proves your emotions correct. This is why you can't afford to let negative feelings linger. They're not just hurting your mood. They're writing your future. You've been taught to obey your emotions. Go with how you feel. They say that advice is destroying lives, because the truth is, your feelings are often lying to you. Just because you feel like a failure doesn't mean you are. Just because you feel unmotivated doesn't mean you shouldn't act. Just because you feel insecure doesn't mean you're incapable. But most people listen. Most people wait to feel better before they move, not realizing that movement itself is what creates better feelings. Emotion should not dictate your action. Action should lead your emotion. Your emotions are programmable. That's the part no one tells you. You're not stuck with them. You can train yourself to feel powerful instead of weak, driven instead of defeated, grateful instead of bitter. But like anything else worth mastering, it takes effort, repetition, mental discipline, and most importantly, awareness. You need to learn to catch your emotions in real time, to stop and ask, is this emotion serving the life I want to build? If the answer is no, you don't indulge it. You replace it with one that does serve you, even if it feels fake at first. Especially then, when you live on autopilot emotionally, you're like a boat drifting without a rudder. You go wherever the emotional winds blow. One bad comment from someone and your whole day is ruined. One missed opportunity and you collapse into despair. That's not strength. That's weakness masked as sensitivity. It's not emotional intelligence. It's emotional slavery. You can't afford to be tossed around like that. Not if you're serious about building a life that means something. Because the people who win, who rise, who thrive, they all have one thing in common. They control how they feel even when everything around them says they shouldn't. There will be days when you don't feel like doing anything, when your emotions scream at you to give up, to shut down, to retreat. That's when you separate yourself from the crowd, not by waiting until you feel better, but by moving forward while still feeling the resistance. That's real power. Anyone can act when they're motivated. Winners act when they're not. They do it because they understand that emotions follow behavior. You want confidence? Start acting confidently. You want to feel strong? Start doing the things strong people do. Feelings will catch up. They always do. But if you sit and wait for your emotions to change first, you'll be waiting forever. You'll watch the world move past you while you sit stuck in your head, building a castle of excuses made from emotion. You need to flip the script. You need to become the kind of person who understands that emotions are just data, not instructions. They inform you, but they don't control you. They are guests in the house of your mind. You decide which ones stay and which ones get shown the door. If you're constantly operating from stress, sadness, or self-pity, it's because you've built an emotional home in those states. And no matter where you go or what you achieve, you'll always return there unless you choose to build a new emotional foundation. You don't rise by escaping negative emotion. You rise by learning to dominate it, to override it, to reprogram it. That's where real change begins, not in the external, but in the emotional energy you carry every single day. If your internal weather is always stormy, don't be surprised when your life keeps getting soaked. Change the climate inside, and the world outside will respond. Every single day, without realizing it, you wake up and step back into the same emotional loop you've been trapped in for years. You think it's just a bad habit, a rough patch, or just the way you are. But what you're actually experiencing is a deeply ingrained pattern that is silently dictating every part of your life. This loop is the reason your results don't change. You want a better life, you want more money, more energy, better relationships, more confidence, but you're living in repetition. You wake up and the same thoughts come, the same feelings follow, the same actions or inactions happen. The same results appear, and you tell yourself, maybe next time. But next time looks just like last time because you're stuck in the same cycle. The truth is brutal, but necessary. Your life isn't stagnant because of outside circumstances. It's stagnant because you refuse to break the pattern. It's not a motivation issue. It's not a lack of opportunity. It's the fact that you're mentally and emotionally addicted to a loop that keeps you where you are. You wake up tired because you stayed up scrolling through distractions the night before. You start your morning with anxiety because you rehearse every problem you've ever faced in your mind before you've even brushed your teeth. You avoid the hard tasks, push away the discomfort, and run toward anything that numbs the sting of responsibility. And then you wonder why nothing moves forward. That's not just a routine, that's a trap. What most people don't understand is that your brain craves familiarity even if it's toxic. If you've spent years feeling defeated, overwhelmed, or anxious, your brain will cling to those emotions because they are predictable. Predictability feels safe, and the brain doesn't care if predictable also means miserable. It cares about survival. So when you try to break the loop by doing something different, by waking up early, by saying no to the wrong people, by committing to a new routine, you feel resistance. That resistance isn't a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that something's changing, and your brain panics because it doesn't recognize the new input yet. That's why people quit. They interpret discomfort as danger. They think, this doesn't feel right, when what they really mean is, this doesn't feel familiar, so they go back to what they know. They return to the loop even when that loop is killing their potential, and slowly over time they stop trying. They call it burnout. They call it bad luck. But what's really happening is that they've become so used to the pattern that they can't even imagine anything beyond it. Their self-image becomes built on the idea that change is temporary, failure is permanent, and effort never pays off. That belief system reinforces the loop, and the loop becomes their life. The only way to break it is with force. Not physical force, mental force. You must consciously, deliberately, aggressively interrupt the patterns that are keeping you stuck. That means doing the opposite of what you feel like doing. That means waking up earlier when your mind says sleep in. That means going to the gym when your body says rest. That means saying no to distractions when your emotions crave the escape. That means showing up for your goals before you feel ready, before you feel confident, and before you feel comfortable. Because if you wait for comfort, you'll die in delay. The loop only breaks when you act against it. And yes, that means it will feel awkward. It will feel unfamiliar. It will feel like something is off. That's the point. Growth always feels wrong before it feels right. But most people can't sit through that phase. They need instant gratification. They want to feel good now, so they give up what they want most for what feels easiest in the moment. They don't realize that discipline isn't punishment, it's freedom. And without it, you are a prisoner to your habits. Look at your life honestly. How many things have you been working on for years that still haven't changed? How many times have you started a new plan only to fall back into your old routine within days? How many times have you promised yourself, this time it's different, only to prove yourself wrong again? That's not a failure of effort, it's a failure of interruption. You never truly changed anything. You just rearranged the loop. You made it look new on the surface, but deep down it was the same emotional addiction driving your decisions. Breaking the loop is messy. It's not a one-day event. It's a daily decision, a commitment to fight the pull of your past identity, to choose the future you even when the present you wants to give up. That's why real change is so rare, because most people won't do what's necessary long enough to make it permanent. They want a quick fix. They want a shortcut, but there are no shortcuts to transformation. There is only the grind. The battle, the repetition of right actions even when the results haven't shown up yet. Your current loop may feel strong, but it's not invincible. Every time you interrupt it with action, you weaken its grip. Every time you refuse to obey its familiar command, skip the workout, eat the junk, avoid the work, you reclaim control. And each time you win that battle, you build a new loop, one that serves you instead of sabotaging you. But it begins with a single decision to stop living the same day over and over and start living the kind of life that requires effort, intention, and the guts to break the cycle. Pain is one of the most misunderstood forces in the human experience. Most people run from it, avoid it. Numb it, hide it behind distractions, addictions, and excuses. They treat pain like an enemy, something to be feared and silenced. But pain isn't there to destroy you, it's there to deliver a message. It's feedback, it's a signal, and if you learn to listen to it rather than resist it, it becomes your greatest teacher. The problem is, most people don't want to hear the lesson. They want comfort, not correction. They want relief, not responsibility. But growth only begins where comfort ends, and pain is the door to that growth. You feel pain when your reality doesn't match your potential. When the life you're living falls short of the life you know, deep down, you could be creating. That internal discomfort, that ache, that frustration, that sense that something's missing isn't just emotional noise. It's an alert, a fire alarm from your higher self screaming, "You're meant for more than this." But instead of paying attention, you turn the volume down. You drown it with food, scrolling, sleep, gossip, entertainment, anything to avoid the discomfort of facing the truth. And that's where the problem begins, because when you silence pain without solving the cause, it doesn't go away. It festers, it grows. It buries itself deeper into your habits, your thoughts, your identity. Every time you feel emotional pain, whether it's regret, embarrassment, guilt, shame, heartbreak, that's life handing you a mirror. It's showing you where your standards dropped, where you let your discipline slip, where you ignored the signs, where you allowed something or someone to control what should have been yours to own. But instead of using that mirror to reflect, most people smash it. They hate the pain so much that they blame others, blame circumstances, or worst of all, blame themselves and give up. They confuse feedback with failure, but pain doesn't mean you've failed. It means you've been given the opportunity to learn. And if you're paying attention, every painful moment can become a roadmap to your next level. Think about the last time you felt serious emotional pain. Not just irritation, but that deep, aching kind that stays with you. Maybe it was a rejection, a betrayal, a loss, a missed opportunity. Now look closely. Behind that pain was a lesson, a truth, a realization you needed to face. Maybe you were depending on the wrong people. Maybe you weren't as prepared as you thought. Maybe you ignored the warning signs and paid the price. Pain didn't show up to punish you, it showed up to prepare you. But the preparation only works if you don't numb the process. If you sit in it, if you ask the hard questions, if you stop distracting yourself and actually feel the weight of what life is trying to teach you. People avoid pain because they think it will break them, but the avoidance is what does the damage. The bottle doesn't heal you, the scrolling doesn't strengthen you, the temporary escape doesn't solve the permanent problem. In fact, every time you run from pain, you're training yourself to be weaker. You're reinforcing the belief that discomfort is dangerous. But it's not. Discomfort is direction. It's showing you where to go, what to change, who to leave behind, and what standards you need to raise. The stronger your relationship with pain, the stronger your ability to navigate life with power and clarity. It's the people who sit with pain who face it head on who become unstoppable, because pain reveals your blind spots. It exposes what you've been ignoring. It peels back the illusion and forces you to confront the truth about your habits, your thinking, your environment, and your emotional discipline. That's why high performers, real winners, those who rise don't run from pain. They use it, they channel it. They take the sting of failure and turn it into fire. They take the ache of loneliness and turn it into laser focus. They take the bitterness of rejection and turn it into bulletproof resilience. Pain makes you sharp. It breaks your routine. It shakes your ego. It forces you to reevaluate everything, and that discomfort, that burn you feel in the pit of your stomach, is not weakness. It's transformation. It's life chiseling you into a version of yourself that can handle more, do more, and become more. But most people miss that transformation because they check out too soon. They quit before the lesson lands. They numb the pain before the purpose can surface. They want the strength, but they're not willing to go through what forges it. You have to reframe the way you see pain. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" Instead of saying, "I can't take this anymore," say, "What version of me needs to die for a stronger version to emerge?" That mindset shift changes everything. Suddenly, pain becomes productive. It becomes a tool, a signal, a necessary part of your evolution. You begin to realize that every painful experience is shaping your character, molding your mindset, and preparing you for a future you can't yet see. Pain doesn't ask for your permission. It shows up uninvited. But how you respond to it, that's where your power lies. You can collapse under it, or you can rise with it. You can resent it, or you can respect it. You can let it define you, or you can let it refine you. The difference is how you interpret it. Weak people see pain as the end. Strong people see it as the beginning. It's the beginning of change, of ownership, of truth, of becoming the kind of person who no longer needs to be rescued, validated, or saved because they've learned to save themselves. And they did it by facing the very pain they once tried to run from. There's a voice inside your head, and if you're honest, it's been running your life for far too long. It doesn't scream, it doesn't rage, it doesn't even speak with force. It whispers, subtle, poisonous, familiar. It says things like, "You're not good enough," "You've failed before, so you'll fail again," "You're too late," "Why try when no one notices," "Who do you think you are?" And because you've heard that voice for so long, because it's been narrating your thoughts since childhood, you've accepted it as your own. But it's not. That voice is a liar, worse than that. It's a survivor of your weakest moments, and every time you listen to it, you breathe life into a version of yourself that was built to lose. That voice is stitched together from every painful memory, every broken promise, every setback you've ever had. It's the voice of your lowest identity, and the reason you keep losing isn't because you lack discipline or talent or opportunity. It's because you still listen to that voice. You trust the judgment of the most defeated part of you and wonder why you can't rise. That's like letting a man who's never won a fight teach you how to be a warrior. It's like asking someone who's never built anything to build your life. It doesn't make sense. But that's what happens when you don't take conscious control of your internal narrative. That voice doesn't want you to rise. It's not designed to help you win. It's designed to keep you safe, not successful. It operates from fear. It remembers everything that hurt you and assumes all future effort will hurt you again. So it tells you to pull back, stay quiet, play small, and because playing small is familiar, it feels safe. You begin to shrink, not physically but mentally. You pull your goals in, lower your standards, start settling for things that make you feel secure instead of alive. And slowly, without realizing it, you become exactly what the voice always told you you'd be: mediocre, average, stuck. But what you must understand is this: that voice only gets louder the more you obey it. Every time you skip the hard conversation, quit early, avoid discomfort, or walk away from challenge, you're feeding the weakness. You're strengthening the version of you that was built in pain and defeat, and soon that voice becomes your belief system. It doesn't just whisper anymore, it starts to sound like truth. It becomes the background music to your daily life, controlling your habits, your expectations, your identity. And once it controls your identity, the game is over, because you'll only ever act in alignment with who you believe you are. If you believe you're a loser, you won't allow yourself to win. If you believe you're broken, you'll sabotage anything that starts to work. If you believe success isn't for people like you, you'll never pursue it with the intensity required to actually achieve it. So the solution isn't just action, it's replacing the voice. You must build a new one, a stronger one. A voice that speaks with power, not pity. A voice that doesn't come from your wounds, but from your will. And that voice doesn't grow from comfort. It grows every time you choose action over excuses. Every time you do the thing you were scared to do. Every time you push through the resistance, despite what that old voice is screaming. You can't silence the old voice with logic. You silence it with evidence. You prove it wrong. You show up when it tells you to quit. You speak up when it tells you to hide. You go harder when it says, "That's enough." You keep promises to yourself when it expects you to break them. That's how you build a new voice, a voice of strength, of clarity, of power. And the more you do that, the more the old voice loses its grip. It's not that it disappears entirely. It just doesn't have authority anymore. It becomes background noise, something you recognize but no longer obey. Every single day you have a choice. You can act in agreement with the voice that's kept you stuck for years, or you can start building a new one word by word, decision by decision, battle by battle. No, it won't be easy. That old voice has been sitting on the throne of your mind for a long time. It's stubborn. It's slick. It knows exactly what to say to get you to doubt yourself. But you're not obligated to listen. You're not required to submit. You don't need permission to rewrite the script. Understand this. You've already spent enough of your life listening to the part of you that was built in fear. Now it's time to let the fighter speak, the part of you that's tired of losing, tired of pretending, tired of playing beneath your potential. That voice may be faint right now, but it's there, it's waiting. Waiting for you to take the first step, to stop feeding your insecurities and start fueling your power. To stop being loyal to a mindset that's keeping you broken, to stop reinforcing failure through your own repetition. Because if you want to rise, if you want to evolve, if you want to finally win, it won't be with the voice that's beaten. It will be with the voice that was buried beneath your excuses and is ready to roar.